Hello and welcome to the Spreadex Six, brought to you by WhoScored. I'm your host George Elek, and today I'm yet again joined by Jack Wright as we look ahead to the first weekend of the Premier League. For those who aren't aware or are new to spread betting, check out in the link in the description an explainer, but quickly it is basically a game of higher or lower. You can either use the buy price to predict there'll be more than the spread price, or you can sell if there are going to be less. That will become clear as we go through the show, where Jack's going to go through a goals spread bet, corners, bookings, player goal minutes, multi-markets and match performance. So let's get straight into it though. Goals to start with, and rather than going for match goals, you are choosing a team's goals, specifically Brighton, who are 0.9 to buy. And you know the data darlings, the XG kings, have they finally got someone who can put the ball in the back of the net?
Yeah, I think they've actually might well have two finishes this season. One that we're very familiar with, one will be making his EPL debut. Danny Welbeck is the guy that we know very well, hoping that he's put his injury problems behind him. He ended the season really well last season, looked really sharp, scored in 3 of the last 5 games. Interestingly, not in the 4-0 defeat of Manchester United at the Amex last season, where they could have had double that if it hadn't been for David De Gea. The other guy, Dennis Undav, is an interesting one. Obviously, very prolific all over Europe. 115 goals in 233 appearances, 25 in 33 in the Belgian top flight last season. And a lot of people are expecting him to be able to translate at least a little part of that into the EPL this season. So time will tell. But they've certainly got the options there, and they create the chances. So we should expect them to break the deadlock against the United side. Obviously, first game under Erik ten Hag. They made a few errors last season, as we well know, and with a new system and a new style of play coming in, there should be some chances that they do throw up to Brighton in this particular game. And of their last 5 pre-season games, although we can't read too much into it, they did concede in each and every one.
On to corners now. The Tricky Trees are back in the Premier League. They travel to Newcastle, have big aspirations for the season. The corner spread 9.7 to sell, 10.2 to buy. But you've noticed that the home side here, not a team who necessarily get many corners.
That's right, yeah. I focused on Newcastle here. Obviously, as you say, Nottingham Forest are new into the league this season after a long absence, and have kind of had to rebuild their side after the loans going back. So let's look at the data that we have got as far as Newcastle in the Premier League last season. Just 77 corners at St James's Park for them, the lowest average in the league at 4.05. The lowest home total corners as well at 169, which is 8.89 average. And that was replicated overall as well, with 350 corners in total last season in Newcastle games at 9.21, so very low averages. 12 of their 19 home games saw 9 or fewer corners, and 9 of the 14 that were while Eddie Howe was in charge. So one thing he didn't change too much from taking over from Steve Bruce was the fact that around about 63–64% of those games featured under 10 corners. So expect Newcastle to be obviously on the front foot for this one, and therefore driving most of the corner data that we've got, and therefore I'm happy to sell the corner line. Selling
at 9.7 there at St James's Park. On to bookings now. Everton host Chelsea. Always a feisty encounter this anyway at Goodison Park. Goodison obviously not a great place, or not the most welcoming place to go for an away team. Frank Lampard in charge of Everton too. 36 to sell, 40 to buy here. Of course, 10 points per yellow card, 25 points per red card. So 40 booking points equates to 4 yellow cards. Yeah. And you think there could be more than that?
Indeed so, yeah. We've got a great referee in charge. We've mentioned him last season.
A great referee for refereeing, or a great referee for booking?
Oh, it doesn't matter about refereeing, does it? It's all about the booking points. So, yeah, a great referee for us on this one. Gave the most yellow cards out in the Premier League last season, which I think surprised a few people. 108 in total. His average was 4.15 per game. And also threw in a couple of red cards, of course, for the season as well. As you mentioned, it does appear that Frank Lampard is trying to create that siege mentality. I can't think where he learned that from. And for sort of older viewers, the Dogs of War that used to be known as Everton, he's trying to bring that back in, I think, which can only mean build up that frenzy in the Goodison Park faithful, and we should see, say, a feisty encounter. We don't have to go back too far to see last season, May, these two met at Goodison, which saw 8 yellow cards, so 80 booking points in total. And Kevin Friend was in charge for that one. His average is 4.33 cards per game, so very similar to Pawson. And in the fixture at Stamford Bridge, there was still 50, and that was Michael Oliver in charge, who has a much less average. So, yeah, very happy with that line, taking the buy there.
Happy to buy at 14 booking points. 3 more to go. The player goal minutes next up. This is buying or selling the accumulative minutes that a player will score in one game. And you are looking at Tottenham against Southampton. Heung-min Son was the joint top goal scorer in the Premier League last season. 28 to sell, 31 to buy. It'd be a brave man to sell this one. I have a feeling you're going the other way.
Well, luckily I'm a coward. So, yeah, I'm going with a big buy here. Look, he loves playing Southampton. Spurs love playing Southampton. We love the game. 22 goals in the last 5 meetings between the two sides, an average of 4.4. That's replicated. You can see that with the fact that Spreadex have the line set to buy goals in this game at 3.1. So if there's to be 3, 4 or more goals in this game, you'd expect Son to be part of that. Looking back over the last couple of seasons, the home and away fixtures, he scored in 3 of those 4 games, both at the home fixtures, which is great obviously for this bet, and late in the game as well. Last season scored in the 70th minute. The season prior to that scored in the 90th minute. Didn't score at St Mary's last season, but the season prior to that, not only did he put the icing on the cake, he put 4 lovely cherries on it by scoring not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 times for a total minutes haul of 229. So 6 goals in the last 4 league meetings, totaling 389 minutes, an average of 97.25 per game.
There you go. It's a pretty good case. I think you
That's
made
why I'm a coward.
Easy. Brave man to buy. Not at all. Clever man to buy. 31 to buy there. Player goal minutes. Multi-markets. This is where you times the values of 2 match events by each other. We're going to Bournemouth versus Aston Villa. Bournemouth's return to the Premier League. They look a bit half-baked to me going into the season. Goals times corners here. 26 to sell, 30 to buy. It does exactly what it says on the tin. You think there'll be plenty of action in the final third? I
do, yeah. I'd make you right, definitely with Bournemouth. I'm not convinced with them defensively. I think attack might be the best form of defence for them. Not many additions at all. The last 4 of the last 5 meetings between these two sides has ended 2-1, so nice spread of goals there. You've got the likes of Coutinho, Bendia, Watkins that will be possibly terrorising this Bournemouth defence as well. So we should expect goals in a game that both must earmark really as a winnable game. You know, Bournemouth need to be getting points from these types of games if they're going to have a chance of staying up. Obviously, again, as another new team into the league. Again, similar to the Forest one, I'm focusing on Villa corners here to see that data. The second highest amount of corners on the road last season, 222 in their matches at 11.68, which is a very high average. They were the 4th highest as far as winning corners themselves are concerned, which I think could be vital for this game. Only Manchester City and Liverpool, obviously the top 2, one more, as well as Southampton as well, more than Villa. 14 out of 19 saw double figures in Villa away games last season. I picked a couple out, the highest being when they visited Southampton, and there was 18 in that game. And the one that I remember well from last season, El Cornico, when they went to Carrow Road, and there were 17 corners, which is obviously a very comparable game, given that Norwich were newly promoted at that time.
Bournemouth fans will be delighted to see you comparing them to Norwich before a ball is kicked.
Yeah.
Match performance now. Leeds playing against Wolves. Match performance, of course, is the accumulative data for all you can find in the explainer for all match actions, including minus 25 points if it finishes 0-0. And that's what you'll be hoping for here because you're selling at 83.
Absolutely right, yeah, that's the earmark we're going for there, the Holy Grail. 38 goals from Wolves last season. Only the bottom 3 scored fewer than that. Raul Jimenez, top goal scorer for them, with just 6. And he's obviously out for a few weeks with injury, so it doesn't look good. On the plus side, for both Wolves and for us, only the top 4 conceded fewer than their 43 goals last season, so very strong at the back. Jose Sarr had a fantastic season, and rather than going and worry about strengthening that attack, they've gone and strengthened the defence with Nathan Collins coming in, so it'll be a tough game for Rafinha-less Leeds to try and break the deadlock there.
That is Jack Wright, Spreadex 6 ahead of the first Premier League season. Do check out the Spreadex website for all of your betting needs ahead of the weekend's football, just this weekend and for the rest of the season as well. Do subscribe to the Who Scored YouTube page where you can find plenty of content up there, including me and Jack coming back and talking through the Spreadex 6 weekly ahead of each weekend of action. As is always the case, please do ensure that you are gambling responsibly, and best of luck with your bets.